The Sonic Boom Cowl is a Mobius cowl. It is worked from the center out on the Mobius cast-on Cat 40 developed. My contribution is I worked the first round as lace. So I'm going to show you the whole cast-on, but this first part is the same thing Cat 40 does. Start with a circular needle. Choose one that is about twice the length of the circumference you intend to make. So maybe a little smaller. So I used my 40. Attach your yarn using a slip knot. This is not a stitch. This is just because you only have 2 hands, not 3, very likely, and you need a way to make the yarn stay with the needle. So I've curled the needle up. There's the bottom, and I've curled it around and around on top. And you want to get into this configuration where you have a point facing to the left and a cable and some yarn. This looks very much like Elizabeth Zimmerman's invisible cast-on. Elizabeth Zimmerman realized the easiest way to make a stitch is to throw a yarn over. But I can't do that and really have something that would be a cast-on. That doesn't really work. However, if I have a cable or some nice piece of auxiliary wool, I can start with my yarn over, and then if I duck underneath my cable, I can make another yarn over. And now I duck forward and to the front of the cable and yarn over. And now I duck to the back of the cable and yarn over. So now I'm creating something that I could knit off as a cast-on. That would work. You may notice this is not terribly fast. Once you understand what you're doing, start moving the needle tip so you can duck down and get your yarn over in front, and then bring the yarn up behind and throw your yarn over. I'll do that again. So there's yarn over in front, and there's yarn over behind. And you can get really good at it and be quite quick. So get yourselves cast on all around, and I will do the same, and then come back and I will show you how to work this off as lace. I have cast on my stitches, and I have curled my circular needle around so that the points are close together and I could knit. At this point, you'll want to pause and do some housekeeping. Make sure your needles and cable are as parallel as possible. There should be just one place where they cross, and that's what creates your Mobius. If you have multiple crossings, then you probably have more than 180 degrees of twist, and while it is both knittable and pretty cool, it is not a Mobius. I have added a beginning of round marker. This is the slip knot I used to start my cast on. I will slip this for the first few rounds. Eventually I'll drop it off my needle, I'll pull the tail, and the knot will pop out, and then I can weave in the end into my fabric. I want you to notice this stitch is facing to the right, which means I have to work it through the back of the loop. But the next stitch is facing to the left as normal, so I work it normally. It is the nature of this particular cast-on that every other stitch in the first half round will be facing to the right. So just be mindful and work the stitches as you need to keep them open rather than twisted. The other thing I discovered about this cast-on is I tended to end up one stitch short of my pattern multiple. There are 2 ways I could remedy this. I could knit the slip knot and use it as a stitch, but then I wouldn't be able to get rid of the knot later. The other way to remedy it is to rotate the slip knot up, behind, around the top, and down. And that creates one more stitch on the left needle. So that's what I'm going to do. But that is a little tricky to work off. So now I slip my slip knot, and I get in here and I knit it. Okay, so a little tricky to work, but there's my first stitch. At this point, I want to convert my plain cast on into a lace cast on. And I will do that by working the lace row in pattern, but only the yarn overs, not the decreases. So here's what that looks like. This first stitch is the apex of a crest, so I'm working down off the crest. So I need 4 yarn overs, so it's going to be yarn over, knit 1, and I'm working that through the back of the loop to keep it open. So that was the first yarn over. There's the second yarn over. Here's the third yarn over. And the fourth yarn over. The next part of the pattern would be SSK 3 times. Instead, I will simply knit 1 3 times. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. Now I'm at the nadir of my trough. This would normally be a double decrease. Instead, I work knit 1. And I'm climbing up out of my trough. This would normally be knit 2 together 3 times. Instead, I will knit 1 3 times. So 1, 2, and 3. Now I'm climbing back up a crest, and I need 4 yarn overs. So knit 1, there's the first yarn over, knit 1, there's the second yarn over, knit 1, there's the third yarn over, knit 1, there's the fourth yarn over. And as I knit 1, this is the apex of another crest. So to continue in pattern, I would do 4 more yarn overs, and then I would be back into a trough. So work in pattern all the way around. I will pause and show you what this looks like at the midway point, and then I'll show you what it looks like at the very end. I am almost at my midpoint. I have just finished a crest, so these 3 stitches are going down into a trough, and they are the last 3 stitches of the first half of the round. My beginning of round marker is right here, and notice it is on the cable, not on the needle. Next to it is my slip knot, and sort of hiding underneath it is that first stitch that we made. These purls are all facing to the left, so you work them normally. You don't have to think about stitches facing left and right. And this stitch, the first purl, this is the first stitch of the second half of the round. For this pattern, this should be a nadir stitch. It should be the stitch at the bottom center of a trough. If it is not, then your stitch count is off, your pattern multiple won't turn out evenly, and you should just take the work off the needles right now and give it another try. But if this is what you have, then you are doing fine, so please keep knitting in pattern all the way to the end. I am almost at the end of the round. I have just finished a trough, so now I'm going up into a crest. I have 4 stitches, so it's knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, second yarn over, knit 1, third yarn over, knit 1, fourth yarn over. And notice that is before the marker. I slip my beginning of round marker. This is the slip knot. I don't have quite enough fabric to weave in an end just yet, so I will slip that. And this stitch is the first stitch that we knit. It's also the apex of the crest, so I will knit that. And at this point I am into a plain knit everything round, so I will knit all around. And in this pattern I do several of those and then another round of lace. So that is how you get lace in the middle of a center out Mobius cast on.